The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Open, the show opening the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Veronica Guity, covering for Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, we'll discuss early voting happening in New York City with a representative from the Bronx Democratic Party. Afterwards, we'll meet candidate for Congress District 15, Melissa Mark-Viverito. Next, we'll learn about breast cancer mortality, early diagnosis, and prevention methods with Columbia University Irving Medical Center's Chief of Breast Surgery. And BLK Capital Management is an organization providing the opportunity for Black students to learn about investing and careers in the financial service industry. Then Black Photographers Collective is presenting their upcoming photography volume. We will discuss more information later on in the show. After that, we'll sit with the creator of Uptown Girl Productions to discuss how she is telling the community stories through her lens. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we are now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Veronica Guity, covering for Darren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, October 9th, and you are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcasted simultaneously on MNN's channels. You can stay connected to us on all social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Some things have been going on through this past week. We'll take you through it with our Bronx Updates. Radical Health presents Mott Haven Meets, a community workshop with a holistic approach aimed to offer healing and solutions to Bronxites. BronxNet reporter Kibin Aline has more details.
If Mott Haven in the South Bronx were its own state, we'd be the third highest state in the country with a number of overdoses annually.
With a plan to give hope and healing to Bronxites, Radical Health presents Mott Haven Meet, a community dialogue workshop at the St. Mary's Recreation Center.
Today is the initial conversation and meeting with Mott Haven to discuss the opium usage, the history of that, plans to move forward. I think also a space or an opportunity for folks to share and heal.
Designed as a way to address the issue of drug abuse with a gentle hand, Mott Haven Meets implements holistic practices, focusing on the mental and emotional health of Bronx residents during the opioid epidemic.
If you live in Mott Haven, you see these kind of things every day, and it does something to you, to your body, to your mental, and keeping those things in doesn't help anyone.
The conversation series began when founder Evelisa Dino noticed the lack of safe spaces for those affected by the crisis in the South Bronx.
We wanted to create a safe space where we could talk in ways that we don't really have space to do that.
Implementing New Age techniques, the healing session provided mood check-ins and emoji stickers along with educational life-saving demonstrations in an effort to form lasting community connections.
People really look at health very individually, but we actually heal when we act as a collective and as a community. Well, I hope that the people that come to this workshops and sessions also spread their love and compassion and kindness that they've learned here with us into the world.
Based on high fatality rates caused by opioids and other drugs in the Bronx, members of Radical Health hope to see this conversation continue. Reporting for BronxNet, Kibin Aline.
In other news, Lincoln Medical Center hosted an opioid overdose crisis public education and responder training. as several neighborhoods surrounding the hospital continue to be impacted even as the citywide number of overdoses has decreased. Bronson reporter Arlene Makoko has the story.
Spray it into their nose. It's a single shot, and naloxone would then go into their system, and if they have opioids in their system, then that's going to bring them back.
Back from being yet another statistic in the war against opioid overdoses that in 2018 claimed 1,444 lives citywide. While that represents a drop of 38 when compared to 2017, several neighborhoods surrounding Lincoln Medical Center continue to be disproportionately impacted. At a public education forum at the hospital located at 149th Street, Noah Isaacs, a senior director with the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, shared the content of this free overdose rescue kit.
Inside are actually 2 doses of Narcan nasal spray, which is another name for naloxone.
Along with handing out free kits, the hospital is hosting public education and responder training forums for both health professionals and everyday residents that want to help, like Edna Baez, a home care attendant.
There's a lot of people in the communities around our areas that do have this problem. So it would be good for them to have somebody to help them out, just in case an emergency.
I'm hoping one day I'll save somebody's life.
Jacqueline Rosa, who lives nearby, lost her father to an overdose. She shared she now wants to get trained to prevent this from happening to another family.
Maybe this training right here will help me, learn how to save life. It will help me have a positive impact around people that's need help.
We have been involved in the Narcan distribution program now for almost 18 months. We've distributed 500 kits here at Lincoln alone.
Along with this, hosting the forum is a way to further empower residents.
We want to continue to encourage residents in our community to come by Lincoln, pick up a kit, because you never know when you're going to need it to apply it to a loved one, to a friend, to a stranger as you walk into the subway.
The kits are available at Lincoln Medical Center and other public hospitals citywide. For more information on this and education forums, go to nychealthandhospitalscorporation.org/Lincoln. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Makoko.
That's all for Bronx Updates. Voting is about to become easier for New Yorkers. Individuals will be allowed to vote 9 days earlier, beginning on Saturday, October 26th, and continuing through Sunday, November 3rd. Here to tell us more about early voting as the political director of the Bronx Democratic Party is Daniel Johnson. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, thank you. This is great. Finally, like we were talking before the show, and we're just talking about how many states already have early voting, and finally, New York is on board.
Yes, it's long overdue for New York to have early voting, and it's going to make voting much easier for New Yorkers, not here just in the Bronx, but throughout New York State as a whole.
So let's talk about where they can go, where New Yorkers can go. Are they going to their polls that they'll usually go on that day?
That's a great question, and one that we've been receiving as we've been going throughout the Bronx to promote early voting. There will be 11 early voting sites here in the Bronx, and no, most of those sites will not be the typical poll site that voters would go to on Election Day. Each voter is going to be assigned to an early voting site, and they can find out what site that is by going to the New York City Board of Elections website and using the Poll Site Locator app. By simply putting in their address, voters can find out all of the details about early voting on Election Day, including that location where they'll be able to vote.
Now, you mentioned the app. I mean, for millennials, an app is everything. It's key, I think, to make sure that you're encouraging them to, especially millennials, to go out and vote. Just talk about the process. Is it going to be as easy? Do they have, if they're not, if they haven't already registered to vote, will they be able to do so during these early dates?
Well, New York is updating some of its election laws this past year. There's been a lot of reforms that were passed through the state legislature, including early voting. So this is helpful, but voters will have, I believe, 25 days before Election Day to register. So that deadline is upcoming, but voting during the early voting period is just as simple as voting on Election Day. It's the same process. You just may be going to a different poll site, but other than that, the process is exactly the same.
So talk about the benefits of having all these dates, or having early voting in our state.
So early voting is simply about expanding access to the voting booth. For far too many New Yorkers and too many Americans, getting to their poll site on Election Day is just not possible. For example, the single mother who works 3 jobs to provide for her family, the young man who's the sole caretaker for elderly family members who works a full-time job on top of that. There's so many people who face obstacles to voting who want to participate in our elections. They will now be able to do so because of early voting.
And I think that's great. Like you were saying, you're helping those people. Like for one day, there's so many people who said, oh, I wasn't able to get there. Even though the hours have been extended. They're open right from 7 a.m. to about 9 p.m.
Well, on
right?
Election Day itself, polls are open from 6 to 9. And the 9-day early voting period, polls will be open 4 weekend days and 1 full work week on various hours, including 2 of those 5 days during the work week. Polls will be open extended hours, so voters will have the opportunity to vote in the morning or in the evening before or after work.
So really, there's no excuse when it comes to getting to the polls.
No, but this is definitely going to help people have more access to the voting booth, and I think this is important, especially at this juncture in our country. Republicans across America are actively dismantling voting rights. In Florida, Republicans are trying to implement a modern-day poll tax. In several other states, Republicans are implementing or introducing restrictive voter ID laws. Which study after study has shown does decrease turnout and it disproportionately impacts communities of color. So it's important for New York to be a progressive leader in the fight for voting rights, and the reforms that we've just passed, including early voting, put us on the path to be just that.
You know, and I just want to make sure that everyone knows that they do have to be registered to vote. You know, even if it's early voting, that you should make sure that you're registered to vote before getting to the polls.
Yes, everyone who wants to vote during early voting or on Election Day needs to be registered.
How can they check that status?
They can reach out to the Board of Elections to check their registration status to see if they're registered to a particular party, what address they're registered at, so they know where they can go to vote on Election Day. All of that is available through the Board of Elections. And then you mentioned, you know, it's important to be registered to vote. 100%. The Bronx Democratic Party just held a number of voter registration drives throughout the borough for National Voter Registration Day a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So we're definitely actively pushing people to register to vote. We're encouraging people to get involved in the process. And as I said, early voting is just an additional opportunity for voters to have access to the voting booth.
Well, I really hope that Bronxites and all New Yorkers will take advantage of all these dates. Once again, they're from October 26th to November 3rd. Yes. Weekends are available, and the hours are on the screen for early voting locations. For more information on voting polls, you can visit nycpollsitelocator.com. And for more information on the Bronx Democratic Party, you can email them at info@bronxdems.org. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us and providing us with this great information.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Stay tuned for more Open after this.
Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
Thank you for staying with us. Several candidates for Congress have emerged to represent District 15 after Congressman Jose Serrano finished his term. And while it is early in the political season with primary elections set in June of 2020, here at Bronxton, we'd like to introduce the candidates for District 15 to our viewers. We've reached out to all who have officially entered this race and have spoken to candidates Jonathan Ortiz, Thomas Ramos, Assemblyman Michael Blake, Councilmember Richie Torres, and David Franks Jr. Joining us today to discuss District 15, her candidacy, issues concerning the district, and more is candidate for Congress District 15, Melissa Mark-Viverito. So great to have you here, Melissa.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, you know what? We're not strangers.
No.
We've seen you many times out in the field with, just out talking to the people, doing what you're doing as also a former speaker, and know yet that you're passionate about so many issues. But, because we are running for time, we just want to talk about the issues that you're really passionate about, starting off with women's health. If you could just talk about, or any of the issues that you'd like to hit on to let our Bronxites know why you're in this race.
Well, let me just say, we are in a very fragile moment in our democracy. And I think obviously looking at issues locally are critically important, and what can we do at the national level to push back, right? We have an administration that is extremely hostile to communities of color. It is hostile to low-income communities, and so we are in the bullseye, right, of policies that this administration is putting forward that are detrimental. When you talk about reduction, there's now news that they want to reduce further SNAP benefits, which is nutritional assistance for families and for individuals. When you talk about the assault on public housing, of which we have the most in the country, and taking away resources that are vital to improving the quality of life of those who live in public housing. We shouldn't be eliminating public housing. We should be trying to diminish the resources. We should be talking about creating more public housing. We have to fight for the things that are basic and which should be a priority in this country. Affordable housing. When we talk about health care, we should be, I support Medicare for all. These are critically important to the lives of Bronxites and for those residents in the 15th Congressional District. So I am committed to continuing to be an advocate at a local level, but really taking the fight at the national level to an administration, again, that has been hostile and is hostile to people like me, to those that I've represented, to those who are my family and neighbors and friends. And so that is what this is about that we are in a fragile moment in time and that we need to take this fight at the national level, and that is what I'm willing to do as a congressional representative.
So talk about what you're going to be bringing to the table, because we've spoken to many of the candidates. NYCHA is a big issue, but tell me exactly what you're bringing to the table when it comes to the NYCHA issue.
So I mean, it is, bottom line, is it about making this a priority, right? We're not the only municipality, the only city that has public housing. We need to create strong coalitions amongst congressional representatives, not only who represent housing, but who believe in housing as a right, to really fight for more resources. So that is critical to make sure that we are pushing back on the diminution of funds that are coming at from the federal level, and also to continue to advocate at the city and state level that more investments need to be made in NYCHA, and that NYCHA needs to be held accountable. That, without a doubt. There is a lot of mismanagement, but also that is work that has to happen. So more transparency and accountability. But it is about making housing a priority at a national level and building strong coalitions with other representatives to make sure that that's an ongoing fight. We have great representation at the local level. We have other congressional reps here in New York that are taking on that fight. But again, this is about changing the dynamics in Congress, bringing in people who are going to bring that fight, and changing the occupant in the White House. That is critical. So we need Bronxites, we need people in New York to take it to the polls and to really show strength in numbers when they go vote.
Just want to move on to another topic that you're very passionate about, which is immigration.
Yes.
Talk about the representation and how what is it that you're trying to do to change the scope on that topic?
Look, I mean, that's an issue that I am proud of the work that we've done at a local level. I've proven to be an incredibly strong ally and advocate and implement really innovative, outside of the box policies that have helped protect our immigrant communities. Those who we know are contributing positively. So I want to continue to take that advocacy at a national level when we talk about helping unaccompanied minors and providing legal resources and legal representation. When we talk about those who are facing deportation proceedings, again, being able to provide. Obviously, we need to do comprehensive immigration reform, but again, we are in a hostile environment where we have Republicans in the Senate and where we have an occupant in the White House who have made immigrants the front line of this battle, and there is literally a war against us as immigrants. And so there's children that are being separated. Children are dying in custody, in U.S. custody. Families that are being, this is terrorizing families. So I will continue to lead and to really advocate for policies like the ones that we've implemented here in New York of limiting also cooperation with ICE, which we've done here in the city of
That's
New
what I
York.
was going to talk about. Just talk about some of your accomplishments
Yes.
that you've made when it comes to immigration.
Yes, we in the correctional, this was before I was speaker, and this was before this issue was even on the front lines and faced a lot of resistance. We had ICE that was literally based at Rikers Island, and we made, through law, we legislated that ICE could no longer have a presence at Rikers Island and that we were going to limit the cooperation between our city officials and federal agents. And so that definitely is something that I would hope other municipalities or other cities are looking to also enact. But we can and we have served as a model in a lot of policies that we've implemented. I'm proud to have led a lot of those efforts, and now we need to take this at a national level. But I think the bottom line, people want to know that they're going to have a representative who's going to fight for them, that is going to make them the center of that fight. That is why I'm not taking any real estate money, any real estate developer money. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money, because I want the constituents in the 15th Congressional District to know that they are ultimately the priority, and they're the ones going to lead me in terms of what I prioritize when I take this fight to Congress. And so my track record speaks for itself about all the contributions I've made, and that I am very vocal and I am very forceful and strong, and that is the type of representation the Bronx will have in me being a congresswoman in the next congressional.
Looking to two women who are looking to you for that representation. Women's health has been hit drastically, changed so much. What do you want to tell the women in the community about their health and why they can put their trust in you?
You know, our reproductive freedom is at risk. We actually have a candidate in this race who does not believe in a woman's right to her reproductive health and to make choices and decisions for herself. This is very, very real. And I have been someone who, again, has advocated. I am a feminist. I'm someone who believes strongly in a woman's right to choose, but also in a woman's reproductive health, the rights to decide for herself what she's going to use, contraception, whatever choices she makes. That's her decision between her and her doctor, her and her family. And so that is at risk right now. A lot of gains that were made, but we literally are losing those rights. Planned Parenthood is having to turn away money because of all the restrictions that are being placed on it, and that they're limiting the ability of Planned Parenthood to provide resources and advice to women without being penalized. So there is a lot at risk, and I want people to know that that to me is a priority, and that we take a lot of things for granted, but that we are in very difficult times where a lot of the rights that we fought for are seriously at risk. We talk about voting rights. You had a segment talking about access to vote. That's under attack nationally. Women's reproductive health is under attack nationally. We're talking about healthcare is under attack nationally. This is serious times we're living in, and I believe I am the best able to really take on that fight, to be a forceful critic, and to make sure that we make the right choices and the right decisions in Congress.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and just to talk about the issues that you want to tackle. Wishing you the very best.
Gracias.
To find out more about Melissa Mark-Viverito for Congress, you can visit mmvforthebronx.com. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more Open after this. Welcome back. Breast cancer mortality has gone down in the past few decades because of earlier detection, diagnosis, and prevention efforts. However, individuals with the BRCA gene have higher chances of breast cancer. What does it mean for women who may be considering genetic testing to identify their breast cancer risk? What are some of the prevention methods? Joining us to tell us more is Dr. Roshni Rao, Chief of Breast Surgery at Columbia University Irving Medical Center. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We both have on our pink,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. It looks good on us.
It does, it does. You know, I just want to, first of all, just say this is amazing what you all are doing, you know, with breast cancer and just bringing down the numbers of women who are affected. We just want to talk about the early diagnosis and the prevention. How do we make sure that women are encouraging them to go after these tests and to make sure that they're having it done annually?
Yeah, so there's a lot of controversy about mammography in particular. You know, when should we start getting mammograms? What age should we start? How often should you get them? And I think those are all things that need to be worked out. I think one thing that is very important to know, though, is that there is no controversy when we look at the very well done studies that mammograms save lives. So that is key to remember. What age you should start, how often you should get it. We can talk to you about that, actually looking at your individual risk, and there are ways that we can do that. We can put in your information, things like what age did you start your periods, how many children have you had, what is your weight, have you taken hormone replacement. We can put all those things into specific what we call nomograms and risk calculations and figure those out and help personalize how often you should get your mammograms. But mammograms do save lives, and it's important to get them and talk to your doctor about how often and when you should start.
So tell me more about the gene testing, about BRCA1, BRCA2. What is the difference between the both?
Yeah, so there are three things, if I'd appreciate the opportunity to share with your viewers, three things about genetic testing that are important to know, particularly about BRCA1 and 2. So number one, the genes are what we call autosomal dominant. So you can get it from your mother or father. You can pass it along equally to a son or daughter. Sometimes I get patients who come in and they say, you know what, there was nothing on my mother's line. Why do I have this? Keep in mind that your father's line is just as important. So let's say you have a father who had two sisters with breast cancer and he himself had prostate cancer. That's important, and it could impact what your risk is. Number two, when we look at these genes, they predispose to several different types of cancer. So prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, and breast cancer are all carried on these genes. So just because you don't have breast cancer doesn't mean you don't carry these genes if you have some of these other abnormalities. The third thing is that people who carry these genes, particularly BRCA1 and 2, may have up to a 50% chance of getting breast cancer. Wow. And if you have that information, you're going to be much more empowered to be able to manage your risk versus being blindsided by something that you didn't know.
So if someone does have one of these genes, how do you go about managing the risk of getting breast cancer?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We really try and individualize that based on where that person is during their lifespan, if you will. If you get diagnosed, let's say at the age of 25, and you're still thinking you may want children and still want to preserve your fertility, then we are able to tailor what we offer to you based on where you are. It may involve things like just watching you closely for a few years. It may involve, for some women, having to have both breasts removed. We talk about Angelina Jolie a lot because she had one of these genes, and she chose to really take some pretty aggressive measures to try and reduce her risk. But you don't have to go that route if you don't want to. There are other alternatives that we can do to just manage your risk appropriately.
Now, is this stressful? Because honestly, like if I found that I have the gene, do I want to have that fear of being tested so often? Because I know there's some people who don't want to go to the doctor, who say, you know what, I'll deal with it when it comes. But tell us why, and I know you've said this, but tell us again why you should not wait.
Yeah, and I get that a lot. I have a fair number of patients who are like, oh, I just don't want to know. It'll make me sad, and my family will be like, you know, what did you do? And you have to kind of think of it in another way, and that if you have that information, and we all know that information is power. Mm-hmm. So this is the same line, right? If you have that information, you can know what you need to do to not be in a position where you're going to need chemotherapy and radiation and all sorts of other aggressive treatments. You can manage your risk appropriately. Again, going back to what you had said originally, we are much better at curing breast cancer if we can capture it early. And being in our protocols where we just keep a close eye on you, and we're not so bad to hang out. Some of my patients who have these genes, I see them every 6 months. We meet, we talk about what's going on, and they go on. So I think it's just a much better position to be in.
Now talk about the technology. It has been advanced throughout the years. Now you're able to have 3D imaging, right?
Right.
And be able to get a closer look at the breast to really catch if there's anything to catch.
Yes, so we do offer what we call 3D mammography. The medical term for it is tomography. So the way to think about it is that if you have a camera and you just take 2 shots of something, you have this table and you take a shot from here and you take a shot from here, and that's what you have to figure out, is this table have 2 legs or 3 legs or 4 legs or whatever it is. And that gives you some information, but it's not as good as if you had a video where you can shoot this table all the way through. So that's what 3D mammography does, is it allows us to take multiple cuts through the breast, 2-millimeter cuts, to allow us to really look at all that breast tissue. And there's several studies that show that in women who have dense breast tissue in particular, and your mammogram report will tell you if you have dense breast tissue or not, if you have dense breast tissue, we will identify 10% more breast cancers.
Excellent. For someone who may be watching right now, just tell me how they can make sure that they're getting this test done.
Yeah, so you can ask for it. That's the biggest thing. Say, do I have dense breast tissue, first of all? And number 2, would you recommend a 3D mammogram for me? And I know that picks up more breast cancers, and how do I get that if you think I need it?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Roshni. Very valuable information. Thank you so
Veronica.
much.
Appreciate it.
To schedule an appointment or to learn more about your health, you can visit their website at columbiasurgery.org, breast, or call 212-305-9676. Don't go anywhere. More open after this.
Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes, but with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Welcome back. BLK Capital Management Corp. is a 100% Black-owned and student-run hedge fund focusing on educating Black students by exposing them to the field of active investment management. Joining us now to tell us more is Angel Noha, co-founder and CEO of BLK Capital Management Corp. Welcome, Angel. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yes. So, first of all, you are a college student, and where do you go?
So I go to Harvard.
You go to Harvard University. Are you from the Bronx?
I'm not, actually.
Oh, we're still
in
a subject, okay. We appreciate the information that you're bringing to us today.
Thank you.
So you decided to take a gap year, right? Tell us how this was inspired. Why did you decide to come up with BLK Capital Management?
Absolutely. So I've always been passionate about the racial wealth gap, particularly for African Americans. But one of the things that I noticed when I went onto campus and was interested to learn more about finance was there are not a lot of resources that people of color were taking advantage of. And so I went to a lot of the early finance organizations on campus, some of the ones that teach you finance, give you great education programs, have a lot of resources. But one of the things I noticed was I was the only person of color, or one of the only people of color in the room. And I thought that was pretty alarming, especially knowing a lot of the alarming statistics about, how African Americans particularly don't have a lot of the financial education that they need in order to, know the importance of saving and investing. And so that was sort of the impetus behind wanting to create the program, which was being able to create a safe space to where African American students, particularly in college, before they start to earn real incomes, could come to learn about finance, not be in a pressure situation in which they feel maybe behind their peers because they don't have previous knowledge that they might have gotten from their parents who are in the industry or any other of their family. And be able to learn, but then not only learn, but have mentorship as well. And so the pillars of our organization are really about education and then mentorship.
Okay, so talk about how you do this. Are you going from school to school? Do you offer workshops, to the students?
Yeah, so we are actually a virtual platform. And so we're nationwide. We have about 70 schools all encompassing. And we have an education program, which is all done through online. And so when a student so when a student comes into our program, they take advantage of this education program and then, go through different units and assignments to learn, sort of starting with qualitative information about what makes good business, how to, identify a company that you might, particularly invest in at some point. But then you start to learn more into the quantitative skills and you actually go into more of accounting, valuation techniques, and things like that.
So they can access your website from anywhere in the world. They can access your website. Are the workshops free online?
All free.
All
Everything's free, yeah.
So let's talk about some of the results that you've seen. I know you started in 2017. Just talk about how some of the success that you've seen so far with the organization.
Absolutely. It's on an individual basis especially, the biggest results that we've seen is a lot of people being able to get internship and job opportunities from our organization. And that's, one of the great things that we really offer because people have really been able to take advantage of, learning this necessary skills in order to really apply them to any industry. And so we partner with a lot of the major financial firms on Wall Street, such as Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. And so a lot of the big impetus behind the program as well is pre-professionalism. And so, they'll come and recruit from our pool of talent and to take people for job and internship opportunities, which is amazing. But then in terms of just overall success as well, we've grown from the first year to have, maybe 15 people who are in this organization to now over 175 students, all nationwide. Like I said before, over 70 schools encompassing, and we've partnered with, I think, over 15 of the largest financial firms on Wall Street. So
now, how did you go about getting these partnerships? Was it that they just saw your mission and they felt like it was something that was needed in the community? Was it difficult reaching out to Goldman Sachs and the other firms that we have on Wall Street?
I wish it was that easy. So when we first started the program, the first thing that we started doing was to try to get these partnerships. And I remember when we first started, I called over 100 firms, and pretty much every single one of them turned me down. Just because it was a very new program, they didn't really understand what the idea was. There wasn't any traction behind it. And so it's hard to get one of these partners to really back you, and because they're also giving us money as well. And so what the big change was after we got the first partnership, which was with Bank of America, then the rest of them started being a little bit easier because they saw that we were an established program and that we had support behind a major name. And so after that, it was a lot easier to get the other ones. But it was definitely a hassle at the beginning.
I can imagine, but it definitely shows your dedication and your hard work through all the students that you're helping out here with this program.
Thank you.
Now, what do you hope to see for BLK Capital Management going forward?
Absolutely. So some of the biggest things that we're hoping on is creating an alumni program. Right now, we're currently only offered for undergraduates, which I think is amazing, especially for students who are going to go and earn, big incomes after they graduate in whatever field that they go into. But we also really want to focus on people who have recently graduated as well, who may have missed the program at the undergraduate level, because that's super important to have the financial literacy skills and knowledge, especially as you're, entering into the early stages of your career.
That's amazing. Well, we are just so happy to have you here, Angel. I hope you get to enjoy New York City before heading back to Houston. But thank you so much for all the information that you gave us.
Absolutely.
Today.
Thank you.
Yes. For more information on BLK Capital Management, you can visit their website at blkcapitalmanagement.org. Don't go anywhere. More open after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund reading.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Thank you for staying with us. The Black Photographers Collective is presenting their upcoming photography volume titled African American Photographers Annual 2020 with the theme focused on community. Joining us now to tell us more is the Executive Vice President of the Black Photographers Collective, Nat Nichols. Nat, so glad to have you here today.
Nice to be here.
Yes. So tell us about this event that we have coming up. It sounds really interesting. I love photography, even though I'm not a photographer.
Hopefully we can change that.
Yeah.
You have an interest in art.
Yes.
The Black Photographers Collective is having their opening event, and that's basically it's almost like it is a potluck event where we're bringing photographers of varied levels to meet us in Central Park at 110th and Lenox, and it's an opportunity to meet and greet experienced photographers, film and digital, from many, many years past to the present, while we develop our new annual, which is a program about photography for the Black community.
That's amazing. So you don't have to be an experienced photographer. If you have a love for the field, you can come out and meet with others in the field?
That is correct. In fact, we have a variety of individuals who are very experienced to individuals who are novices who want to basically get into the field, and more importantly, they would like to progress, because there's really not an opportunity for many individuals to do that.
Mm-hmm. So what's the event going to look like? I know it's going to be out in Central Park, but what's going to be happening at the event? Is there going to be chances for you to, everyone to take photos while they're there? Are they going to be displaying some of their work?
We will be displaying examples from our upcoming annual, which is known as the African American Photography Annual 2020. So we will have examples from that annual. We will have a photo collector who will be explaining the advantages of collecting art. We'll have an individual who basically will be talking about the ability to handle art. Most people aren't aware of that fact. You'll have an opportunity to meet some of the individuals who are part of the original organization that we are based upon, known as the Black Photographers Annual. And that was the original organization, that was the original annual that was published from 1973 to 1980.
And so now it's been revamped.
That's right. We're picking up where they left off.
Okay.
We're adding a new perspective to it, new techniques, new photography, new issues that are relevant to the population. Mm-hmm. The original annual was one of the first, in fact, it was the first annual that basically showed Black photography art in a positive environment.
So I'm guessing that's the mission behind the organization.
That's part of the mission. The other part is to create an educational and entrepreneurial component. We are applying for a 501c3 as an education and arts nonprofit.
And we were talking about that before the show. Is that something that you're trying to offer to the youth to make sure that, not just the youth, but just to the community as a whole, to appreciate this artwork?
To appreciate and basically take it a step further. There are many opportunities out there that individuals are just not able to capitalize on because they either don't know or the general public has a perspective and they don't really see many photographers of color to be competent enough to do the type of work. And we're looking to change that.
Excellent. So why the theme community for this event?
Well, let's go back to the original organization, which was the Kamonye Workshop. Kamonye in the Kenyan Kiku language means community. So they were an organization of 15 photographers who were mentored by Roy de Carava, Langston Hughes, Henri Cartier-Bresson, among others, and they developed the first volume of art quality collectible art that showed the black community in a light that was not really seen. There were perspectives that were out there and made it possible for individuals, institutions, and others to hold, collect, obtain art, purchase them from the original artists. And that publication ceased in 1980. In 2016, it was determined that we should basically revisit this and update this. So we created the organization, and we're looking to bring out our first volume next year.
It sounds wonderful, and the event itself sounds like it's going to be great. I mean, Central Park is a beautiful location, of course, to have it. Is this going to be a free event? Who's invited to come?
It is a free event, open to all. It's a potluck event. What we mean by that is we're asking you to basically bring a dish, sit down, work with your peers, exchange food, exchange knowledge, network, meet some of the older established photographers. Some of them are in their 80s, but even though we're in a digital age, there's a lot of information. In fact, all the information lies back with the earlier generation. And it's important for people to realize who their mentors are.
Now, what are some of the photography that we're going to be seeing at the event? If you could just talk about some of the artwork and how, how the artists were inspired in the work that we're going to be seeing at the event that day.
We have artists. From showing work from the 1960s to the present. We have artists who are film-based. We have artists who are digitally based. We have artists who have interests that are contemporary interests and other things that would really resonate with the rest of the community.
That sounds great. And I see a lot of black and white inspired photos here.
The material is black and white because traditionally photography was black and white. More importantly, color has a tendency to just get in the way. When you look at a black and white photograph, you are able to really get into the soul and texture of the artwork.
No, that's very beautiful, and it's so funny because everything, when you see photos, especially with our generation, it's like, oh, we're trying to edit it ourselves, we're trying to add more color, we're trying to make it more bright, but you say sometimes black and white is just a simple way to go.
That is correct, and you're looking for a piece of work that when you see it, you're captivated. In fact, if your eyes can't move away from the artwork, it works.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Nat, for telling us about this. I know the event, the African American Photographers Annual 2020, is taking place on Saturday, October 12th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Central Park, located at the corner of 110th Street and Lenox Avenue. For more information on the Black Photographers Collective, you can visit their website at blackphotographerscollective2020.com. And you can also visit their Facebook at Black Photo Collective or Instagram at Black Photo Collective 2020. Nat, thank you so much again for joining us. Really appreciate it. Don't go anywhere. More open after this.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen,
Double points with every purchase?
cleverly merging promotions,
Love it.
cross-referencing travel sites, and booking all your flights with those
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh, but now they're like, aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I bought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
Thank you for staying with us. Uptown Girl Productions is a business and blog aiming to preserve and represent the community's culture visually. Joining us now to tell us more is a producer, videographer, and creator of Uptown Girl Productions, Francesca Felice. And of course, she is also a BronxNet rep. That's right.
That's right. Hello.
Hi, Francesca. Francesca actually covered an event of mine. We've gone out together in the field, covering many stories. So I was very excited to see that I was going to be sitting down here with you today. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So tell us about Uptown Girl Productions. First of all, I love the name. Tell me about the name.
Okay, well, I'm just an Uptown girl, and I really like to refer to myself as Uptown Girl, so I just decided to name Uptown Girl Productions, and it's a business and blog that was born out of emotion. So there's like a lot of changes that are happening in my neighborhood. I'm born and raised in Washington Heights, and all the changes that are going on, like gentrification, which we can get into, is something that really sparked various emotions in me, and I just decided I need to do something about it. There's nothing that I can do to combat it, but I want to like have a voice and give a platform to people who are doing things to keep the culture alive. So that's how it started.
So talk about some of the stories that we could find on your blog. What are we going to be looking for?
Yeah, so I did a piece on Generation Y, which her name is Jessica Martinez. She's the founder of Generation Y, and also known as Save Uptown. So she's an activist, and she's from Uptown, Washington Heights. She's been like heavily involved in trying to combat gentrification and like the inward rezoning, which was approved by Council Member Dennis Rodriguez, so those are the types of things that I do. So like I sit down with people, like community people, individuals, anybody that is representing the community in some way. I sit down with them, I try to give them a platform. So those are the types of things that I'm covering.
And what I love about it is that you decided not to wait. Even though you weren't sure exactly what you could do, you wanted to make sure that their voices were heard. And you're a one-woman band. Just talk about, just picking up and just doing what you know.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to be a one-woman band because, first of all, I have a full-time job. So my job is my main focus, and then I have to also focus on my business. So I find myself working around the clock quite often, working throughout the day at my full-time job and then working overnight at my side job. And so I handle all aspects of production. That's pre-production, production, and post-production. And so it's very time-consuming, but it's what I'm really passionate about. And hopefully in the future, I can expand to be able to hire people to help me out with these things. People that are hopefully as passionate as I am about my community.
In the meantime, of course, social media is here. You're on social media at Uptown Girl Productions. Excuse me. But what type of stories are you looking for? If someone wants to reach out to you, if they want to get their story out there, what are you looking for to put on the blog?
So what I have in the blog right now, besides the gentrification 15-minute short documentary, I also have it's the founder of, I forget his name right now, but Adam runs NYC on Instagram. So I did a piece on him, and he basically gives free fitness classes, like yoga, nutrition, fitness for Uptown community members. And I found out about him through Instagram, and I reached out to him. And I was like, yo, something like this content like that is what I'm looking to put on my blog.
Are you looking for people specifically in the Uptown area?
Yeah, for sure. I'm open to doing things outside if people want to work with me, absolutely. Not going to turn down any opportunity. But for the blog aspect, I like to keep it to Uptown Girl Productions. So you can also see my blog, www.uptowngirlproductions.com, and you can click on the blog. It's Around the Heights.
So what's Francesca's story? I mean, you're going around, you're finding out our story. Well, what's the story behind Uptown Girl?
Okay, so my story is I'm a journalist, and I started my career at New York One as a videographer. And so I was given the opportunity to do some honor pieces for New York One Noticias, and the first thing I thought was, how can I represent my community? First thing I did. So my very first story, it was about my community. I found a local photography business that wasn't getting, I was surprised that it was still even in the neighborhood because of like gentrification and all the rent increases for businesses and individuals. And so I wanted to highlight that. And so I have so many ideas, and I just wanted to give myself a platform to just express myself. And
have you been able to, bring those passions here to BronxNet and to also share those stories as well?
To BronxNet, yes. So at BronxNet as well, I pitch ideas, more Bronx related, that will also uplift the community. Like I've pitched a story on a local clothing brand, and I went to one of their pop-up shops, and we brought like a whole crew, and that was one thing. And then they came into the studio. So like I'm always looking for ways to uplift the community, ways to try to put people on, pretty much. And it's all like very genuine, coming from my heart. I just want to see my people doing good.
Excellent. Well, we are so glad that you are doing good. Very excited for you with Uptown Girl Productions, and I'm wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for more information on Uptown Girl Productions, you can visit her website on uptowngirlproductions.com or social media at Uptown Girl Productions. Thank you so much, Francesca.
Thank you.
We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the rebroadcast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67, Verizon Fios 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. That wraps it up for us here on the set of Open. I'm Veronica Guity. Make sure to keep this channel wide open, and remember, you should always let your light shine. Take care.